Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back another video today. And today the Houston Rockets beat the Dallas Mavericks 108-102. Great win for the Rockets. Another for themselves and for their opponent, low scoring basketball game. All but one Rockets game has been low scoring. They did score 128 points against the Memphis Grizzlies, which is great. But outside of that, it's been low scoring for the Rockets. So that's been a bad thing, but what's a really good thing so far this year is that's also been a trend for their opponent so far, as the highest point total for a Rockets opponent this year is 110 with the with the Charlotte Hornets to start off the year, game one. Since then, the Rockets have given up no more than 110 points. Memphis was 108, San Antonio was 109 and 101, and obviously tonight with the Dallas Mavericks 102. So, and that the Rockets so far, I know it's only most teams have only played in the area 4 to 6 games. So I know it's really early, but that's if you look at all teams in the NBA, not just Western Conference, all 30 teams, Rockets rank third best in opponent points per game. Now on the other end, with their own points per game, the Rockets' own points per game. Now, their opponent points per game is really low at 106, which is great. But their points per game, which is like 110.6 or 110.7, something like that, is one of the lowest. It's one of the lowest in the Western Conference. It's the fifth lowest in the Western Conference. So hopefully the Rockets could pick that number up. But so far in these last 5 games, that number doesn't have to be too high with the way the defense is playing right now. But as the Rockets go up against some better teams, I know Dallas was a great team that they played tonight. I thought they did a great job, but there are better teams than the Mavericks. The Mavericks are a good basketball team, but there will be better teams that the Rockets will go up against. So I hope the Rockets can start getting a little bit higher in the points, with their points. But it's early on. I expect that will happen, but they don't need that to happen right now with the way the defense has been early on in the season. And what will be interesting in the next game against the Golden State Warriors, who knows if Stephen Curry will play or not. But the Golden State Warriors, I mentioned the Rockets are the third best with points per game. The Warriors are right there at number 2. Only allowing 99 points per game as well. So the Warriors have been a great defense so far to start off the year, just like the Rockets have been. And those two teams will match up against Saturday. We'll see if Curry is a go or a no-go. But look, the Warriors have been playing good basketball without him, even without Curry, beating the Pelicans twice without Steph. So, and one of those games they didn't even have Wiggins either. So, or maybe both of them they didn't have Wiggins. I'm not sure. But that will be a fun matchup on Saturday. But, I was proud of the Rockets tonight. I thought they did a great job. I tried to watch the most of this game I could. Texans were on at the same time. It's really tough when you have 2 Houston sports teams on at the same time. I've had this issue this year with the Texans and the Astros. This is my first time having this issue with the Texans and the Rockets. I hope this continues not to be an issue. It might be just because I know the Texans have a couple more night games coming up here. I know the Texans have a Sunday Night Football and a Monday Night Football coming up in the next couple weeks. So we'll see if that's a problem scheduling with Rockets. But, I tried to stay fair and watch the most of the Rockets and Texans I could. Had them on in different rooms. So, being not just a big Rockets fan, but a big Texans fan, I was running from room to room. Although it makes it a lot better when the rooms are really close to each other, the living room and the bedroom. So, but, there were parts of the game I missed, and there were parts of the Texans game I missed, and the parts of this game that I missed were because I was watching the Texans other way around. But I thought the Rockets did a tremendous job in this game, and I gotta say, I was surprised. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting a win tonight. I really wasn't. The Rockets last year, it was a real problem closing games out in Dallas. The Rockets they really did struggle with Dallas last year. They beat them once in Houston, but that was without Kyrie and Luka. And the two games in Dallas last year, the Rockets played extremely good basketball against Dallas, but they could not close out a game for the life of them. Both games in Dallas, they had a double-digit lead, and Dallas came back in both of those games. And it was very tough situations. I mean, one of the games, Dallas had a complete stupid comeback, and game went to overtime and they lost. The other game was the in-season tournament game, which if the Rockets beat the Mavericks, they would have gone to the playoffs of the in-season tournament. And they lost that game. Tight game at the end. Couldn't close it out when you had the chance and you had the decent lead. And the one loss at home, the Rockets just got absolutely killed by Luka. Luka was a Rocket killer last year. And then adding in Klay Thompson this year, Klay has been a guy who has killed the Rockets in his career as well. So, but I will say I thought the Rockets did an extreme good job against those two guys tonight. The one thing I was proud of was, it's hard to keep two extreme great guards away from the free throw line, and the Rockets did that in this game tonight. Luke only had 4 free throw attempts. Kyrie only had 3. One of Kyrie's attempts was because of a technical on Dylan Brooks. So he wasn't even fouled. So six of their free throw, only one of their, only 6 of their free throws out of 7 were because of actual fouls. So, I thought the Rockets did an extreme good job keeping those guys away from the free throw line, and moments like that when you see those guys go into the free throw line a lot can really hurt you. That did not for this game. Luke only had 4 free throw attempts. He missed 2 of them, which is good for this Rockets team, of course. And Kyrie only had 3, which is not great for him. And one of them was because of a tech shot, and he did make all 3 of them. But to limit 2 extremely talented guards like Luka and Kyrie to only 7 free throws, the Rockets, could have had, one of those guys could have had 7 by themselves. But the Rockets did a great job eliminating those guys. Still scored a lot of points, but you didn't get those 2 guys at the free throw line when they're pretty much automatic. Luka did have 29, Kyrie did have 28. Both guys did a great job, but the Rockets did a good job in that category. Klay, I thought who's been a Rocket killer. The Rockets did a good job against him tonight. He was making some shots at the end of this game that were hurting the Rockets when the Mavericks started to make a run. 12 points for Klay though, 5 for 13, 2 for 9 from 3. I gotta say, when Dallas was starting to make a run, there was like a 7-0 run, and it was 101 to 95. I think they cut it a little bit. They cut it a little bit shorter as well later in that game. It was giving me flashbacks to some of the other games against Dallas last year, and I really didn't know if the Rockets were going to be able to close this one out, but they did something that they weren't able to do last year, and that was able to close a game out against the Dallas Mavericks. And one thing I will say is this Mavericks team is better than they were last season, talent wise. And still, Rockets were still able to close a game out against them. The Rockets didn't add much in the offseason, and I think that shows how much their guys have improved to be able to close a team out. Close a team out that they couldn't do that last year. They couldn't do that 2 times last year in close games. They did that tonight. So I was extremely proud of the Rockets with the way they played tonight. And this is not a normal 3-2 team. I mean, you look at the 3-2 record, and I look at a team that honestly should be 5-0. Game 1 was terrible. I mean, the Rockets played some great basketball in that first half against Charlotte, and then it was just a collapse in the second half. I mean, that should have been a win for this Rockets team. I know shoulda, coulda, woulda, but the way the Rockets played basketball in that game, They played great basketball. It was just a sloppy performance. They showed, hey, this is the first game of the season. We're being sloppy. Then they played great against Memphis. And the second game, I'll give this the third game of the season. I'll give the Rockets a lot of credit for that loss against San Antonio, because that's really tough with how hard they had to play against Memphis, and then you go on a second night of a back-to-back, have to fly to San Antonio after that performance less than 20 hours later, and you got to play the San Antonio Spurs. And with the way the Rockets started off, they showed they had no energy against the Spurs. They were down 62-41 at halftime. But what happened in that second half? The Rockets showed the real basketball team we know, and they came out with their energy that they were missing, must have left in the locker room in the first half. And what was the final score? Even though the Spurs scored 62 points, it was 109-106. The Rockets cut that lead down to 1. It was a 20-point turnaround, which the night before was a 32-point turnaround, because the Rockets against Memphis the night before were down by 12 and won by 20. And then, obviously, against the Spurs, after you get some well-needed rest on Monday, you get a win. What happens tonight? Another win against Dallas. The Rockets are playing way better than a 3-2 team, and I'm really impressed with the way they're playing basketball to start off the year. Really impressed. Let's go over some stats. 23 points for Jalen Green, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. Jalen's great in this game. Kind of rare for Jalen, although we've seen it before a couple times. Double-digit rebounding game for Jalen, 12 rebounds. Another great defensive game for Jalen, 1 steal, 1 block for Jalen. 4 assists, which isn't, it's kind of, that's good. It's solid. 23 points, it's not his lowest of the season. It's his second lowest. His lowest of the season was against Memphis. Even though he scored less points against Memphis, I'll still probably prefer that Memphis game, his performance against Memphis, than this. It was a good game for Jalen. I'm not saying it was a bad game, but Jalen has had so many good games this season. I think this was probably the worst. I know some people might look at the Memphis game and say, oh, he only scored 22 points. But the impact that Jalen had in that Memphis game defensively, oh my God. He had 3 steals, he had 1 block. I think that's probably, I'm not going to say the best, but I think that's probably one of the best defensive performance, if not the best defensive performance I've seen from Jalen Green last week against Memphis. So just because Jalen didn't have as amazing defensive performance as he did in the Memphis game as he did tonight, I'm going to say this was probably Jalen's worst game of the year. But at the same time, this is another good performance from Jalen Green. Another game for Jalen Green where he's leading the Rockets in scoring. There has not been a game this year for the Rockets where he is not leading in that category. So I'm not hating on Jalen Green saying this was his worst game of the year so far. That's actually credit to him, because this was another great game for Jalen. Double-digit in rebounding, plus 20 points, got 4 assists, even though he was the lead scorer, had a solid defensive game. I would just put that Memphis one in front of this performance just because of how much of an impact he had defensively against Memphis. But me saying this was his worst game of the season has nothing to do with, not criticizing Jalen, just showing how good he's been this year. But he was fantastic again tonight. He was quiet up until the fourth quarter. I think he only had 11 points going into the fourth quarter, finishes with 23. He wasn't really active going into the fourth. He was rebounding good the whole night. It was not until the fourth quarter where he really started to pick up scoring. I believe he scored exactly 12 points in the fourth quarter. So great night for Jalen, but more importantly, great fourth quarter for him. But again, I throughout 5 games, I've never seen Jalen Green play such good defense. We can look at some of the improvements he's had with his 3-point shooting. That being a factor for this Rockets team so far. His rebounding's been a little bit better. His scoring has been better. But I think the most important thing for this Rockets team that has been better is that has been his defense. That was a weakness for this team last year. I don't think that's a weakness anymore, at least so far to start off the season. All right, let's go over some other scoring. Şengün was terrific. Another double-double, 17 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block, 5 for 16, 0 for 1 from 3, 7 for 9 at the free throw line. Loved how Şengün was able to get to the free throw line tonight. Most makes and attempts at the free throw line for the team tonight. 17 points for Brooks. I thought probably one of his best games of the season. I think his 3-point shooting this game kind of hurts that. Shot 2 for 9, but still shot 6 for 15 from the floor, 3 for 4 from the free throw line, 17 points, 2 assists, 4 rebounds. There might be a better game. I mean, he was pretty good against Memphis, but I think this is probably up there with one of his best games of the season so far. Jabari was good, 14 and 6, 1 steal. Van Vliet, wasn't great. 39 minutes. Actually was pretty terrible, if I'm not going to lie. 2 for 13, 0 for 7 from 3, 4 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds. Off the bench, I thought Tari was phenomenal. Tari Eason was phenomenal. 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Amon Thompson was great too. 10 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 18 minutes. Cam Whitmore, it was, I guess it was better. He's still struggling. 6 points, 1 assist, only 8 minutes. His minutes keep going down though. 2 for 6 from the floor. At least he finally made a 3. I will say that. Finally made a 3-pointer for Cam Whitmore. Started off 0 for 24 from the season. Then finally made one, but then he goes ahead and misses another 3. So it's 1 for 26 from the season so far from Cam Whitmore. It's been brutal. But at least he got that first make out of the way, I guess, and maybe that can get him going. But it has not looked good for Cam Whitmore so far this season. He's starting to lose minutes. He did have a rebound and assist, but was able to hit his first 3. This of the season tonight. He missed a free throw. He missed 4 shots. So he has not looked great. Reed Shepherd, not getting a lot of minutes, even though, he's one of the backup guards. Only 5 minutes for Reed tonight. He did get a rebound, had 2 points, only took 1 shot, and that was, a make for him. So, not a lot of minutes for Reed Shepherd so far. He's been okay, but I think we can really start to get a better look at him once he starts to get more minutes, but who knows when that will start to happen. Let me know your... Steven Adams as well. I missed him 10 minutes. One of the reasons I loved bringing Steven Adams in is he's one of the better facilitating centers in basketball. Outside, you look at guys like Jokic and Sabonis, and also you can look at the Rockets' own starting center, Alperen Şengün. Those are some great facilitators at the center position, and there are probably a couple other I'm missing. I've watched a lot of Ivica Zubac this year. I think he's done a great job as facilitating as a center, and getting some nice assists. But I think for Steven Adams, I've witnessed with his playing time in OKC and a little bit in Memphis that he's a great facilitating center. And he got 3 assists in 10 minutes tonight, 1 rebound, 1 steal as well. Did get in a little bit of foul trouble and 2 personal fouls in 10 minutes. And one of the things I did love was one moment in this game, Tari Eason and Daniel Gafford got a little bit into it. It was a little bit of a scruffle. And usually sometimes when the Rockets get into near fights or, arguments, I'm not going to say fights because, all the time you'll see, these 2 guys fought, but they're really just screaming at each other and wanting to fight, but nothing really happened. They'll just overreacted. But, there's just Tari Eason and Daniel Gafford arguing. And sometimes when these things will happen with the Rockets, you'll see the team security come out. That it's not all the time, but it's most of the time. But with Steven Adams on the floor, He just gets right in the middle of it. Team security doesn't come out at all. And Daniel Gafford just kind of walks away. Like, nobody wants to F with Steven Adams at all. That dude, you don't want to upset him. Let's just say that. So, I love his addition to the team for multiple reasons. I think his rebounding is going to be spectacular. His first game the other night, he did some good rebounding. I think it was like 3 or 4 rebounds and not a lot of minutes. We saw tonight with his facilitating as a center, 3 assists in 10 minutes. Also has some nice skills, scoring wise as a center, but also he's tough. He is tough. People have said that guys in the league have said that he's one of the they think he's one of the toughest players in the league. He is tough, and nobody's gonna F with him on the floor. So I love the additions. I love the addition of Steven Adams. Let me know your thoughts on the win for the Rockets in the comment section, and peace out.